Puppy girl, puppy baby. My pretty girl. What can I say? I highlight her in the videos if she's up here because she my Brenda baby and I love her. So, time to talk about the last One Piece chapter for, or hopefully, well, kind of the last One Piece chapter for 2013. And it's one that ends with a lot of crying, and I will admit I cried when I was reading the chapter. Oh boy. In regards to the chapter, first we're going to start off with the cover page. So there's actually, One Piece is actually part of the cover page for Shonen Jump this week. And it's basically just a bunch of people from Shonen Jump all having a giant snowball fight, which is fun. We see Luffy in the middle. We see Deku off to the side. We see... I can never remember the name of the pink-haired kid from Jujutsu Kaisen, even though I've seen it. And then there's like so many others in the background that I can't name because I don't know them. But, you know, all of them are just having this giant snowball fight, which is just fun. And very apt for, you know, Christmas time and everything like that. Side note, I'm still trying to figure out why there ends up being clicking in the background of some of the some of the videos. I think there's just something on the desk that just clicks a lot in the background, and I can't hear it while I'm recording it, so I apologize for any of the clicking in the background of the video. I don't know if it's there or not. I won't know until I'm editing because I just can't hear anything, so sorry for that. But going into the actual chapter, we have the cover page. So the chapter is 1102, and it is titled The Life of Kuma. And we have the cover page is Bonney chowing down on a bunch of hot dogs that are being made by a pack of wolves, which is just kind of funny. And the request is Bonney not waiting to stuff her face at a meal with a pack of wolves who carefully built up a huge stash of hot dogs. So, and like if they're on a conveyor belt, one of the wolves is like, she's eating them all, which is just funny. So into the actual chapter, we kind of pick up pretty much where we left off last time. We have, you know, Bonney and her crew are setting out, and Bonney is kind of, you know, aged herself up to like the 20-something-year-old body that we're used to seeing her in, because I think she's even smart enough to understand that, or one of the others explained to her, maybe Goigo or Tots or Taters or whatever the heck they're called. Maybe they explained to her, maybe you should age yourself up so that way you don't look like a child leading a pirate crew, because then they're not going to take you seriously. So she just, you know, ages herself up to like 20-something years old. And of course, we see throughout the course of the rest of the story, she ages herself up and down so much, which was one of the points of contention for various things. But what we end up seeing is, you know, they're heading toward whatever other random island, and they're like, no doubt about it, Bonney, Kumashi's here. And she's like, quit calling me by my name. I'm the captain, aren't I? And they're like, okay, captain them. It looks like there are Marines here too, though. And she's like, all right, men, the Bonney pirates have arrived. And it's just like, okay, she's 10. Let her call her. So she's almost 10 at this point in time. Let her call them the Bonney pirates. It's fine. I was actually trying to figure out, because I looked up when Bonnie's birthday was, because Luffy's birthday is in March. I think it's like March 5th or something. And I was looking up when Bonnie's birthday was, and I think it was in September. It was later in the year than Luffy, so it's like Luffy turns 17 and he heads off on his adventure. Bonney leaves for her adventure before she turns 10, because we see her have her birthday party in the last chapter where she turns 9. And then, you know, because she's like, I'll be cured by the time I'm 10. And, you know, then it's like so many months later is when she's, you know, supposedly done with her treatment and everything like that and all cured and everything. After her body's had time to fully adjust to the stem cell replacement surgery or whatever it was that Vegapunk did. So, you know, Luffy leaves sometime in March. Bonney left a little while before her actual birthday, and we don't know the exact dates in One Piece for like when certain events happen. There's very little of that, mostly just because of the fact of like we don't get the exact amount of time that like, oh, they travel from this island to this island and then go to this next island and go to this next island. For how long the Straw Hats are at sea before they reach different islands. So that's never 100% explained. So it could be Bonney could be setting out at roughly the same time as Luffy and the others. She could be setting out slightly earlier, slightly later, is when Luffy's setting out to do his stuff. Because everything within the East Blue only takes like a couple of weeks at most before they're headed off to Logtown and up Reverse Mountain, which will get referenced in here. But we don't get too much of that. We don't get like the exact time frame that Bonney left. We know that it's before her 10th birthday because that's something that is brought up in the chapter. So Bonney and her crew are all headed out and everything like that, and they're going after this island, and we see a bunch of the Marines and it's like, we've got orders to bring them in immediately. They say that the last city they attacked was packed with injured seniors and even little children. And then Bonney, and they're like, they're the worst type of scum is what they're calling Bonney. And then Bonney just goes through, and Bonnie's weapon right now is like a stick. Just like a staff, but it's not like a staff the way that Nami fights with her bow staff right at the beginning. It's just like a stick that's probably about 3-4 feet long, if that. And she has that, and she turns some of the Marines that are attacking her. One gets turned into a child and she hits them, and one gets turned into an old person when she hits them. So it's just like she's using her stick as a conduit for her power, which we've seen her demonstrate before when she attacked Vegapunk with the pipe. So it's like she's kind of like leveling up and stuff like that. And Kuma does happen to be on this island that they are attacking. And like I'm assuming like Bonnie's going around and asking people in the village, hey, have you seen a giant guy with bear ears and a black and white coat with a target on it? A big guy, yeah, I've seen him. He was on the outskirts of town. And then like Kuma's there listening, and he's just like, I can't see you, Bonney, please understand. And he like pops himself away, and he's like, it's hard to believe you became a pirate of all things, but you mustn't chase after me. Now, we know from the perspective of Kuma that part of the deal that he made with Saturn was that he would not have any contact with Bonney. Because if he had contact with her, then the world government would capture her and make her a slave. Now, by a technicality, the world government is going after her anyway as it is, Kuma. So it's like, okay, they're already going after her at this point in time. It was one thing if he tried to have contact with her beyond the letters when she was still in the grips of Alpha and everything, or Alufa or whatever you want to call her. But she's not with them anymore. And, they could just end up deciding to send, Kuma made contact with Bonney. Send all of these, send an admiral in, send in Kizaru for, to rub salt in the wound and everything like that, which is kind of what ends up happening anyway later on. That's what's happening in Egghead Island right now. Sending Kizaru. But we get to, it's like, Kuma, just go talk to your freaking daughter. We know that via what we know of the story that does not happen, but we're kind of getting that from these perspectives here. So we see Bonney and the crew sailing along. At some point, they do upgrade their ship to the Jury Margareta or whatever it is. It's like the much more updated version of their ship. And we look and get their Jolly Roger updated to be Bonnie's Jolly Roger with the bite taken out of it, which, okay, if she's the one that designed the Jolly Roger, even at the age of like not quite 10, still a good job. Slightly more creative than just Luffy's being a skeleton with a cross and bones with a straw hat. So we get that. So, Bonney is kind of upset, so like, where the heck did he go? And they're like, okay, we've already been dubbed pirates. We may as well keep searching. And even if it takes a while, right, Captain? And she's like, yeah, if we're gonna take it slow, then I want to look for Nika too. Now, Bonney, of course, has been raised on all of the stories of Nika and everything like that that Kuma would have told her and all of that stuff. So it's just like, well, Kuma is the kind of the expert to a degree on Nika. Bonney is also fairly well versed in it. And so she's like, well, let's go and do this. And plus, she's also had kind of like the dream of wanting to go and find Nika a good chunk of her life anyway, so that way that's something her and her dad could do together, which is adorable. And what ends up, kind of what this is implying is that she's like, imagine Daddy's face when I tell him I found Nika at so-and-so island. Don't you think he'd be thrilled? Which is very true. And has now actually happened where she has met Nika in regards to, meeting Luffy and everything like that, or meeting his current incarnation, or his current embodiment, avatar, or whatever you want to call it, that Luffy is representing of Nika. The whole question is, does Bonney realize that yet? We don't know. We'll find out about that, hopefully in the next couple of chapters when they come out. She would be the one that would be able to tell Luffy that that's what he is, between her and Vegapunk, given what we've learned about Vegapunk, or what we're going to learn about Vegapunk in this chapter. But Bonney is just like, yeah, if it's going to take the slow route to find my dad, we're going to look for Nika as well, which is perfectly understandable. It's like that's part of her dream, is she wants to go and find Nika and all of this stuff with her dad. That's part of Bonnie's dream. That was one thing that when it came to the supernovas was, it's like, okay, what was Bonnie's motivation? We never quite knew that until like now, to a degree. So it's like, it's nice getting that put in there. But we see them just, laughing at everything, and then we cut to the East Blue, where it's like, meanwhile, in the East Blue, having crushed the vicious fishmen of the Arlong pirates, Straw Hat Luffy has stepped into the spotlight. And we see this is when Luffy is getting his first bounty, and he's like, all right, I got a bounty, and we see, the 30 million and everything like that, and he's just like so happy and everything. And then this page was, I think, released at Jump Fest, where we're seeing like some of the reactions to Luffy's bounty and stuff. And we start with the Revolutionaries, where we see Sabo and Dragon, and Sabo's like, you're going to Logtown? What for? And Dragon's like, no particular reason. Who's in charge there? And Sabo's like, yeah, that'd be Captain Smoker. So it's like, okay, and then we see Smoker looking at Luffy's bounty. But I like the fact that it's just like Sabo, who, of course, at this point in time, does not have his memories back yet. He does not remember Luffy or Ace yet. And however much of a connection Dragon knows Sabo had to Luffy and Ace is a little bit up for debate. That's going to be an interesting thing if we ever end up finding out how much of that Dragon was aware of, because he didn't really interact with Sabo while he was interacting with Luffy and Ace. And unless Dragon, when he was doing one of the times where he was in the East Blue and he went and checked up on Luffy, either while they were running around Fuchsia Village or up in the mountains at Mount Corbo with Dodon, there's the whole question of like, did Dragon see Sabo running around with Luffy and Ace? And that was one of the things that led him to then want to interact with Sabo in, Hightown, and then save Sabo after Sabo's, ship was attacked by Jalmac. That is kind of one of those questions that I don't know if we're ever going to 100% get an answer to anytime soon. So we'll see what happens there. But, so we're seeing that, and Sabo's like, so where are you going? And he's like, none of your business. Go back to doing your homework, is kind of like what Dragon's giving off that impression. And then we cut to where we see Ace showing Jinbei Luffy's bounty poster, and he's like, Jinbei, guess whose kid brother is on this bounty poster? And he's just like so happy, which this is a reference to another point in time where Ace is showing Whitebeard Luffy's bounty poster for the first time when it comes out. And he's so proud of his brother. And Jinbei is like, that brat, like, a brat like this took down Arlong? And Luffy and Ace is like, that's right, he's my kid brother, and everything. So it's nice, it's nice when we get to see Ace in the flashbacks and just see how proud he is of Luffy. And this, by technicality, is the first time that Jinbei has had much of any form of type of a reference of Luffy. It's like, yeah, Jinbei and Luffy, fought for, 3-4 days, whatever it was, in Fishman Island, but now it's like, oh, okay, now they're friends, and how much did Ace tell Jinbei about Luffy to begin with, and then now he's seeing him in the bounty poster and everything, and then of course we know where that ends up leading much later on down the line. We also see Kuma looking at the bounty poster, and he's like, what a curious twist of fate, Dragon, to think your boy would become a pirate. And so we're getting that there, and then we're cutting to where we see Bonney and her crew having like this big kind of like cheersing moment and everything like that of like, what they represent. And she's like, here are ironclad rules of piracy. Plunder whatever you want from bad guys. Rob them blind and don't help a soul unless they really need it. Not a soul. So it's like, it's clearly like the whole thing of like Bonney is kind of following in the line of like the similar type of pirate that Luffy and his crew are, that the Straw Hats are, and that to a degree like the Shanks, the red-haired pirates are, and the white-beard pirates and stuff like that, where it's just like they're the pirates that aren't just going to attack someplace just because it's there. They're not going to plunder a town. They're not going to plunder a town for just because it's there. They're not going to hurt random people. It's one thing if like someone tries to attack them, like with the Marines were trying to attack them, or if, different things like that. That's one thing. Or if they have to fight other pirates, those are one thing. Those are fine for Bonney to be like, yeah, defend yourselves. That's fine. But it's like, if the person didn't do it, if the person's not trying to hurt you, there's no point in trying to hurt the person. And it's not like she can't just like, age the area where she's trying to fight and then like age down her enemies or age them up or whatever, and then get past them or get past civilians that way, and then they'll age back to normal and everything like that. When the effect wears off. So she doesn't have this want to like hurt people the way that we've seen Kid do, and the way that we've seen Hawkins do when they entered the New World, or just other things along those lines. Law kind of falls into a similar setup here. Beiji is a little bit up for debate in regards to how he tends to handle this stuff, because I don't see him necessarily having a problem hurting civilians to a degree. Depends on the civilians. Apu, I can see Apu not having a lick of opinion about any of this and just be like, do what you want, it's fine. Arouge, I don't see, given the bits that we've seen about Arouge doesn't quite strike me as wanting to just hurt people for hurt random citizens and stuff like that. But like Bonney definitely seems to be following in like this similar vein to the Straw Hats to a degree, because like the Straw Hats have taken gold. They took gold from Skypiea, even though they would have been just given the gold and more gold in and of itself when they were leaving Skypiea. So there was that, and there's other points in time where the Straw Hats have just up and taken gold and different things like that as well. Where Nami will just rob areas blind as much as she wants. So we get kind of that interaction there for the type of pirate that Bonney is like setting herself up to be. And then we see Bonney is like learning how to put on lipstick, so it's the little bit of lipstick and everything, which is just adorable. And then Gyoigo's, I cannot pronounce the guy's name, it's just like, yeah, that's exactly how you put on lipstick. And I'm like, I've never been much of a makeup girl, so I don't know when it comes to applying lipstick. She's like, great, I'm totally a grown-up now. And she's like, I also put this on, and she's pointing of course at her the jewelry piercing under her eye and everything like that. Daddy might not recognize me without something on my cheek. Now I just got to make a name for myself. Let's get his attention. That'll get his attention and everything. So we're seeing that. And of course Bonney does become the glutton, and she does make a name for herself as becoming, the only female member of, the worst generation of the supernovas and everything like that, with a bounty over 100 million by the time she reaches Saba Odi and everything. I don't remember if her bounty is the lowest or if it was somewhere near the bottom. I don't remember exactly, because I don't remember all the bounties for all of the supernovas. I know that Kid was the highest, followed by Luffy, simply just because Kid was much more violent than Luffy. So we're going, then we cut back to Egghead Island in the New World, which definitely has been built up so much more. And we cut back there and we see all of the different clones and the tubes and everything like that are the pacifistas that are being developed, and we see them with like the numbers on the outside of the tanks that they're in. And Kuma's like, this is unsettling. And Vegapunk's like, you think so? It's like, yes, it's very unsettling to see tons of clones of yourself here. Which kind of just implies how stupid to a degree all of the clones that were on Germa are, with the fact of like, hey, why do we all look exactly the same? Why do all of us have all of these same different body types? And they look exactly the same. It's like, how stupid are those clones in Germa? Admittedly, they are just programmed to follow whatever orders are given to them by Judge and the rest of the Germa, so, you know, there's that. The rest of the Vinsmokes. But we see, you know, Kuma and Vegapunk are talking, and Vegapunk's like, their progression is going as smoothly as your own modifications. Never mind that, though. Did you hear the news? Apparently some rookies declared war on the world government. No, it's Kuma says that. Kuma says have you seen that it's a rookie has declared war on the world government? Or maybe it's, I don't know. I think it's Vegapunk that says that. And then Kuma, which of course is referencing what happens at Enies Lobby when Luffy and the others are going there to fight to save Robin and everything like that. So that's what that's referencing there. And then this is where then we see Vegapunk's reaction to finding out that A, Dragon has a son, B, it's the kid that just declared war on the world government. And Vegapunk is just exceedingly shocked by this, which of course we know that Vegapunk has a connection to Dragon at this point in time. We also see that he has his apple head, and this is over 2 years ago, because this is before the time skip, because this is lining up for when the Straw Hats were at Enies Lobby, or just after Enies Lobby, so maybe lining up with like the post Enies Lobby Return to Water 7 little mini arc there that they have, where they get the Thousand Sunny and everything, and Frankie joins and Usopp rejoins, where we have that moment. Is kind of like where this is lining up. But Vegapunk has its apple head now, but I don't think we see any of the we don't see any of the satellites. There's like a robot that kind of looks like it might be some form of like Edison, but I'm not sure. So you know, we see a lot of that stuff, so it's just like he's at least working on getting everything set up for his Vegapunk records, and for the Punk records, and with getting stuff set up for making the satellites, if not already in the process of doing so. And we see that, and we see Vegapunk and Kuma talking, and Kuma's like, if I'm going to let you study all my memories, there's no point trying to hide it, like hiding the fact that Dragon has a kid. And Vegapunk's like, a man with rubber powers standing up to the world government. What a quirk of fate. He sounds just like my idol Nika, or that's Dragon, or that's Kuma saying that. Sorry. Sometimes it's hard to tell when it's like the text shifting around all the time. And then, you know, Vegapunk's like, yeah, that is kind of funny and everything like that. And then we cut to Thriller Bark when the Straw Hats are there, and when Kuma has arrived at Thriller Bark, and he's, you know, this is after they've defeated Moria, so everybody's gotten their shadows back, and like Moria's just like passed out onto the side of on the ground over in the corner right now. And Kuma's like, the government has given me special orders to wipe you all out. That said, I'm sure they'd be satisfied if I only brought them Straw Hat Luffy's head. Hand them over and I'll spare your lives. And of course, this is where all the Straw Hats are just like, oh, hell no. You know, go to hell and everything like that, and standing up to him and everything. And he's just like, what a shame. And, you know, does the Ursus shock and sends that out. I kind of hope that when they do get to this part in the flashback, when we get to the anime, that we do get some new animation for what happened at Thriller Bark, just because it's been so long since Thriller Bark was originally animated. It would be nice to get like some updated animation for it, particularly if they're showing some of the stuff from like Kuma's perspective in this case. But we see him do the Ursus shock that he did back when, you know, he originally fought the Straw Hats on Thriller Bark and everything. And, you know, Dragon, you know, Zoro is, you know, one of the ones that's still conscious. And then after he knocks out Sanji and everything like that, he's like, Luffy is the man who will become the king of the pirates. If you truly mean to take his place, Zoro is stating his like, Luffy is a man who will become the king of the pirates, and Zoro is showing his faith in Luffy, and Kuma's like, if you truly mean to take his place, you must be willing to bear all his pain and suffering yourself. And this is of course where he pushes all the pain out of Luffy into the pain bubble and everything, and that forms, and we get the inner monologue from Kuma of like, this much damage might be enough to even knock me out, which is saying something. Considering how much, recurring damage we've seen Kuma take when he was, being the pastor of the church and everything, and probably continued to do so while he was raising Bonney there until they were able to get a hold of, get Vegapunk and everything. And of course, we know what happens there. This is, Zoro shoves his hands in and takes all the pain and survives and everything, and is able to, take care of all of that and everything, and, Kuma's leaving, and he's like, he has exceptional friends, just as I expected of your son, Dragon. And, so we're having that moment, and Kuma's leaving, so this is, kind of showing the rest of, like, how Kuma knows that Luffy is Dragon's son, and being able to make that comparison, and it's like, that is something that both Dragon and Luffy have a lot in common when it comes, is that they are both very charismatic individuals to varying degrees. Dragon is this charismatic, Dragon's got a lot of riz, I guess would be the way to put it now, but he's very charismatic in the fact that he can, get all of these different revolutionaries to follow him under his banner. Now, it's not like he says, oh, you're not allowed to do this or you're not allowed to do that, preventing them from doing different things that they want to do, but like they all follow him. And then Luffy and the Straw Hats the Straw Hat Grand Fleet and other ones that they've developed, had as allies over the years, has, just continued to be that way. Then we get to Sabaody. And we see Kuma arriving at Sabaody, and he receives this call from the world government, from the Marines, whatever. It's like, we're calling in all 7 warlords of the seas. If you refuse to come, you'll be forfeiting your title. And he's like, quit the statement. What's the occasion? And he's like, the flag bearer of the new era, Portcullis D. Ace, his public execution date has been set. This will mean war with Whitebeard pirates. And Kuma is just like, war with the Whitebeard? Now, of course, Kuma technically has like a past with Whitebeard, and the fact that, Whitebeard was part of Rock's crew when they attacked God Valley, where Kuma was 36 years ago at this point in time. But it's like, okay, that doesn't mean that Kuma was aware of the fact that Whitebeard was a member of the Rock's Pirates back then. He only interacted to a degree with Big Mom, and that didn't last long. And, there's just kind of this whole thing of like, okay, Kuma also has paid a lot of attention to the newspaper over the years, so he's definitely aware of who Whitebeard is. But he's like, okay, I will be there. I will be sure to arrive before the execution date. And then we cut into Sabaody, where we see inside of the cafe or restaurant where we were introduced to Bonney for the first time, where she gets her character introduction when Shocky is going through and listing off all of the other supernovas, and we get introduced to Bonney here, and we know that Capone Beige is off to the side as well during this interaction here. I also think Hawkins is in this area or something, or there's like the 3 of them are all here or something. And she's like, where's my food? I'm wasting away here. She's just like scarfing down the pizza and like the meat on the stick and everything, like, bring me more now. Love Bonney. And, it's like, hey, if I had her metabolism, sure, why not? And she's just like scarfing down everything, and she's Bonney the glutton and everything like that. And we have this moment where we see Kuma like sneaking around, like wrapped up in like the cloak type thing that he has, like sneaking around and like trying to look in the window of the restaurant, which is just adorable. Just adorable looking in. And we hear the Bonnie's crew just like, Captain, the Navy will take notice if you keep causing a scene. And Kuma is just like looking in and like smiling at the window and just like freaking out the other customers that are there. Um, and he's like, this is the last time I'll see your face. Become a truly indomitable pirate, Bonney. And, he's like thinking that in his head. And we see Gyoigor, I don't remember, I cannot pronounce his name, I don't know why. The fisherman guy is like the one with the cowboy hat, is like, looks like he's pointing at something, and it might be he's pointing at Kuma because he may see Kuma in the window, and he's trying to point at Kuma, and Bonney is just like engrossed in her pizza, so she's not going to look. And then we see Kuma traveling through Sabaody, and he comes by the human shop. God, I hate this place. And they're freaking out and screaming coming from there, just like that pirate just hit a celestial dragon. They'll send a warship from Navy HQ. And Kuma's like, that's the human shop. Someone punched a celestial dragon? Okay, this I gotta see. He's like, who would dare to do that? It's like that moment where it's just like, oh my god, there's this thing happening over there. Oh my god, I gotta go see this. Is like what's going on in Kuma's head. So it's like, yep. So he goes, makes his way, is like looking into the auction house, and he's like looking down, and he's like, the whole world knows that's taboo, and we're so close to Navy HQ too. It's practically suicide to be trying to do this. And he's looking in and he's looking down, and we get this like overhead view of like what happened after Luffy punched Charlos, and we see Charlos laying there, like Kuma looking down, and then we get these like up close shots of all of the different Straw Hats, and he's like, them again, the Straw Hat Pirates. And they're like, did he do it to protect a fishman? Straw Hat Luffy? No one has done anything this bold for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's treason. And like Kuma's looking down and like seeing like all the Straw Hats, protecting, they Luffy just knocked out Charlos, and then, they're trying to save Kami and everything like that. Do we see still Kami? Kami is still in the fishbowl when we're looking at this moment, from this direction. So like Rayleigh has not come out and managed to like, get the collar off of her yet. But we see the Straw Hats are all there, and like Kuma is witnessing this as like someone who has also, to a degree, stood up to the world government, stood up to a celestial dragon when he was a kid. He stood up to Saturn when he was a child, and now he's seeing Luffy do something very similar. If not a bit more action orientated than just shouting at a celestial dragon and saying, are you supposed to be someone important? But still, there's like this similarity there. And so I think this is when Kuma is fully making his decision. He's like, he witnessed Luffy make that decision. Like, he saw Luffy fight at Thriller Bark. And I have a whole video where I talk about how Luffy, like, the similarities of Luffy restoring the sun to Thriller Bark and restoring everybody's shadows is very similar to, like, him overall of the story helping be this force that can help with defeating the world government. So I kind of made similarities there. Similar statements there in that video. If you want more of that information, you can look that up. But like Luffy is just like, Kuma has made this decision now, and he saw Luffy stand up to a celestial dragon. He's seen that Luffy has these rubber powers, so he's kind of slowly putting those pieces together and everything like that. And I think it actually has very little to do with the fact that Luffy is Dragon's son, that if Kuma saw these things coming from someone else, even if it wasn't Luffy, or even if it wasn't someone who was Dragon's son, he would still want to somewhat support them as much as he could. And we cut to where we see that the Straw Hats are being attacked by PX1, and Kuma is just like, stop, PX1. And they're like, oh no, it's another one. And this is where we have like Kuma's inner monologue, and he's just like, Dragon, Eva-chan, I hope you can forgive me. I didn't mean to desert you without a word. At least I can leave my own quiet mark on the world through Bonney and this young man. Their future will be the only legacy I leave behind. And this is where we're seeing, kind of Kuma's perspective is when he's popping away all of the different Straw Hats and everything like that. And then where, Luffy is just there and broken, and he's just like, I couldn't save any of them. And just like so broken at that point in time. And like we get close-ups, we see Kizaru and, Sentomaru and Rayleigh and everything like that as the Straw Hats are being popped away. And just that broken look on Luffy's face, which still just kills me to this day, as broken as Luffy looks at this. And, now we're getting, when we originally got this in the manga and in the anime, and anytime we see this flashback in the anime, it's, Kuma, this big, powerful figure, seems to be just like, from our perspective, just like ripping the Straw Hats apart from each other and just like sending them anywhere willy-nilly. And it's just like, no, he planned this. He sent them all to places where they could get stronger, and Brook to some random island where they needed to, I guess, fight long legs or long arms or whatever it was. Just, you go here, skeleton dude. And all of that, but he sent them to so many different places where they could get stronger, and then Luffy to Amazon Lily for whatever reason, which I think just had, I don't know, whatever other reason they're involved. I don't know. And what ends up happening is, we're getting Kuma's side of this for this, and he's like, you've got it wrong. I'm just showing you the level you have to be in the new world, and you and your friends just aren't ready. Don't go there yet. After all, you will someday save the world. And then like the last pop where he sends Luffy off. And so all of them have been sent flying at this point in Kuma's flashback where he's remembering that, and we're just having that moment where he's just like sending them all the way again, which now when they end up animating this, from Kuma's perspective, they're going to be throwing in the reactions of like all the Straw Hats as they show this and everything, like re-showing us the animation probably of like all the Straw Hats getting popped away as this is happening, to drag it out, but also to like remind us about how that felt the initial time around when it happened, and then now again. From Kuma's perspective and why he sent them to all of these different places. Then we cut back to the New World, back to Egghead Island, probably within, because like Marineford happens within, it was like 3 days for Luffy to travel to Amazon Lily, and Kuma would definitely be able to travel to Egghead very quickly with his, paw powers and everything like that, and end up there. And we're getting back and we're having Vegapunk arguing with Saint Saturn over the Mushi, and he's just like, install a self-destruct mechanism? Are you really that terrified of Kuma? And, so Vegapunk getting very, very angry here. And, Saturn's like, don't complain. Isn't his terrifying status as a human weapon you're doing? And Vegapunk's like, but you 5 already have the highest priority in the command hierarchy. And Saturn's like, and if he were to somehow go rogue when not in our presence, how would anyone else stop him? And we cut to Marie Joie, and we see Saturn there, and he's just like, do not answer. I'm not interested in the opinions of a scientist for hire. And then Vegapunk is coming over his Mushi, and it's just like, then in exchange for me doing that, let me keep just a touch of his ego intact. And he's just like, I've invented a circuit for the brain that allows one to switch between 2 states of consciousness, akin to a split personality. If you allow me to test it, and then Saturn's like, I've given the order, Vegapunk. Erase his individuality completely. Make sure no trace of him remains. You won't be forgiven if you don't. Remember, I too am a man of science. Any attempt to deceive me will fail. I mean, it's like, we've known about the Gorosei for so long at this point in time, and now we've gotten hints of what their powers are in regards to like their political powers and stuff like that, with what they are able to, just do at a whim. Now we're getting to see this more individual picture painted of Saturn in regards to how ruthless he clearly can be. And of course, we've also seen versions of that currently in the story when, on Egghead with him, literally holding Bonney up to have her be shot. But there is a lot of that goes into that. It's just like, is Oda gonna go through and try to paint individual pictures of each of the other Gorosei in this same fashion? should give us more of an opinion of them. I mean, given the bits that we already know about them as an audience, we're already just like, no, we don't like them. They're bad. We want to see what cool powers they have, but we don't like them. They're bad. And it's a different kind of evil than a lot of the other evil that Oda has shown throughout the course of the manga and in the anime and such. But, you know, so we get that. And Vegapunk is just like, but if we do that, Kuma won't get to reunite with Bonney at all. And he, you know, and hangs up and everything. And we cut to where we see Vegapunk and Kuma are, you know, Kuma's all attached to like whatever machine Vegapunk has developed at this point in time in order to, you know, finish with the rest of the, you know, erasing of Kuma's, you know, individuality and everything like that. And Kuma's like, it's good to know how you feel, Vegapunk. And Vegapunk's like, wait, I didn't think you were able to overhear that. And Kuma's like, weren't you the one who gave me superhuman hearing? And Vegapunk's like, yeah. All right then. Today is the day we erase your sense of individuality. Ooh. And like we have seen throughout the course of this flashback that Vegapunk did not want to do this to Kuma at all. Modifications, physical modifications were one thing, I guess, but like just not this, not taking away his individuality, his understanding of who he is and everything that makes Kuma Kuma, as opposed to just another one of the pacifistas. And Vegapunk does not want to do that. And he's just like, Kuma, it's only been 2 years, but it was fun. And he's like, yeah, I suppose it was. It's like, yeah, sure, parts of it were fun. And we cut to Vegapunk, and he's, you know, getting ready to, you know, throw the lever and everything like that. So he's getting ready for that, and he's like, it's looking like your first assignment will be a battle with the Whitebeard pirates. I've been asked to prepare a battalion of your clone soldiers for that, too. And then this is where we're getting the ask about the Sunny, and he's like, once that's over and done with, there's something I'd like you to program me to do. And he's like, protect the and Kuma explains to it, and he's like, Vegapunk's like, protect the ship of the Straw Hat Pirates. And Kuma's like, yes, just until one of them returns. I'd like to be a stubborn guardian for their home, since I won't be able to witness their continued growth. And Vegapunk is just like, what kind of future are you dreaming up for that boy? And Kuma is holding up Luffy's wanted poster at this point in time, which is the 300 million one. And he's like, his actions have really moved me. I know Nika is meant to be a legend, but it'd be great if there really was a warrior out there, putting smiles on faces, using the rhythm of liberation, the rhythm I taught Bonney. And if there is a hero out there that will change these seas one day, I believe it's him. God dang it, Oda. And Vegapunk is just like, a revolutionary placing their hopes in a pirate. You're backing quite the dark horse. And I mean, I don't think that's necessarily the first time we've seen something like this. I mean, well, it's definitely not the last time, because Sabo has kind of done the same thing as well and kind of placing his hopes in Luffy at this point in time. But Sabo's also out there trying to do what he can as well. Dragon, to a degree, probably put some form of hope in Roger, given the fact that he was at Roger's execution and everything like that. So there's some connection there. I would like to learn more if there is more of a connection between Roger and Dragon, but we just haven't gotten there yet. So we get that, and Vegapunk is all ready, and Kuma is sitting on the sitting in the chair, medical, looks like kind of an MRI machine, and he's just like, that unorthodox thinking is proof of your humanity. All right, before we begin, remember to push out those memories for me to research. A promise is a promise, after all. And Kuma, and then we see Kuma, doing, his pushing out his memory bubble of the, his paw memory bubble. And Vegapunk's like, does this effectively erase your memories? And Kuma's like, no, think of it as a copy. It will disappear when it's touched, though. And Dragon and Kuma and Vegapunk is like, don't fret. I've designed a system that will allow me to take peeks without touching it. Place it in here, and this is where we see, putting it into the paw room and everything like that. So that's setting all that up there. And he's just like, okay, it's just another procedure. I have to be clinical about this. I'm a scientist after all. And Kuma's like, so, this is my life. I wonder how many people have been harmed or troubled by my actions. I will try to get through this part without crying, and I apologize if I start crying or if there's cuts because I cried too much. And Kuma's like all attached into the machine and everything like that to start, just fully erasing everything that makes him Kuma, and just has him be programmed as the PX0. And Vegapunk is just like, troubled. Living is nothing without trouble, wouldn't you say? And then we're seeing these flashbacks of Kuma's life that's just like the really fast little clip show setup of, like, when Kuma is born, and we see his parents clap and his mom and everything like that and how happy they are. And then we see Kuma running, and it's him as the kid, probably during when he's the slave at between being the slave at Marijois and then being taken to God Valley and everything. And then we see him meeting Ivankov and like Kuma, and then we see the kid version of Ginny smiling at him, Kumashi, and then we see him running again, and it's him as like his pastor garb when he's like a teenager, running and running and running. And then we see him meeting Dragon, and with meeting the ones that would end up being on Bonney's crew and everything like that he grown up with and everything like that. And then we cut to where we see Ginny all grown up and everything like that as like one of the Revolutionary Army commanders, and she's like, Kumashi, all happy. And then we see him running even more, and it's him in his Revolutionary Army garb and everything like that. And then we see with Bonney as the little baby going, Daddy, and everything like that. And it's like, so many of these are like people holding their arms out for like hugs from Kuma, and that's like what Ginny is doing and what Bonney is doing at this point in time. And then we have Kuma running again and everything like that, and it's him in his the warlord garb that we see him in the majority of the time. And we'll get through this. And I think it's supposed to be Kuma saying in his memories, I can hear her. It's Vegapunk saying, I can hear her, in regards to Bonney. And Kuma just like, I'm so grateful, thank goodness, and everything. Get through this. And we see Vegapunk, and we're seeing outside where we're seeing Vegapunk, tears streaming down his face, because he has grown to care very much for Kuma during these past 2 years that he's known him, and having to do all of this and like gotten to know Kuma so well and everything. And he's like getting ready to throw the lever to finish everything, and Kuma's laying back there, and he's got like the little smile on his face and everything. It's like Kuma accepted his fate because it meant he was saving his daughter, and now she's out there making a name for herself, being this pirate, being a good pirate, going off and having her own adventures and everything. And Vegapunk is just like, your life hasn't caused anyone harm or trouble, but your death will pain everyone who loves you. Listen well, Kuma. You are a hero too. I will get through this. Not only for Bonney, but for everyone you've ever met. And Kuma's like, thank you. There's just one last thing, Vegapunk. And he's like, yeah, I know. And he throws the switch. And it breaks Vegapunk too. And we cut around the island, and we see the other scientists that would have been there and watched as Kuma went through all these different procedures, and Bonney went through her treatment and everything, and they helped build the island and everything like that. So it's like they know that Kuma is a kind soul. And we see Sentomaru, and Maru has known Kuma just as long as Vegapunk has, and has interacted with him so much and everything like that, and watched Bonney and everything. And yeah, we just see this this broken Vegapunk and everything like that. I'll get through this. And he's just like, and it's Kuma saying, I can't say how grateful I am. Thank you for saving Bonney's life. And we cut to where we see, the sun shining down on Egghead Island. And then we cut to where we see Kuma waking up after this procedure, after everything's been wiped, and he's just nothing but the programming now for being a PX. And everything, where it's just like the mournful face Kuma that we see. And it's just like, if you see her again, could you tell her something for me? And we cut back to what would be the previous night on Egghead Island, the previous night from current in the timeline, previous night, and we see Bonney just sitting there in the paw room with the paw bubble gone, as in it's been, she's watched through it, she can't, it's gone, and she's just crying and crying and crying. And I can't tell if she has reverted to her child form, her true age form that she would be, that would be the 12 years old. I can't tell if she has reverted to that age or if she's her 20-something form. I can't tell. Mostly just because we don't get enough of a detailed image of how much we see it. We see it from the distance and then the close-up of her crying, and I can't tell if it's supposed to be her in whichever form. Because the more impactful form would be her as her 12-year-old self finally hearing this from her dad. And it's, she's, having, seen the memories, and it's please wish her a happy 10th birthday. And we have a little editor's note, his daughter. His daughter is the only thing in his heart. So we have break next week, which is New Year's week anyway, and then we might get the chapter the first weekend of the new year. In regards to this, there is so much in regards to just didn't break down the way I did with the Digimon videos for Tai and Agumon and Matt and Gabumon. Didn't break down as much as I did for those. But when it comes to this, it's the impactful thing would be it to be the child Bonney, but also Bonney might have become so comfortable in her 20-something form, 22-something whatever form, that she feels much more comfortable in that, and that's what she sees as her true form now. Which is fine. That's perfectly reasonable for her to feel that way. It is her own body, and she was in that form so much and everything like that, and she has been forced to grow up very, very quickly in regards to everything that we've seen. So that's understandable. So I don't know which one we're going to end up getting. If it's going to end up being, Bonney is, stays in her, her 20-something-year-old form the majority of the time, or is she going to be, her, eventually reveal to the Straw Hats her kid form and everything like that. And, we'll see what happens when we get back to the next chapter. We'll be probably cut up to, because, this is, the night just before everything happened, and Bonney is just, crying and crying and crying, which is fully understandable. We know that by the next morning, when everything is happening with, Egghead being attacked by the Marines and everything like that, and Kizaru and everything, that, Bonney has kind of, she's, not swallowed and tapped down her emotions, but she's processed them enough that she's okay, Vegapunk is not my enemy. Saturn is my enemy. Saturn and the Celestial Dragons and the world government in this case, and the Gorosei, they are my enemy now, not Vegapunk. and how she will, make that transition, and how she's, we saw her attack Saturn and everything like that. Yeah, she didn't really do a whole lot of damage when she stabbed him, but she's still the first one to draw blood on him that we've seen. Again, not saying much considering he just like pulled out the sword and whooped it healed, but still. And probably, hopefully, the next chapter will start with either something where we see Kuma making his way to Egghead, depending on how this goes, or where we see, Saturn or something happening with that. Where we cut back to, we have like Saturn holding, Bonney up and everything like that, and everybody, getting ready to fire at her. Having all the Marines ready to fire at her. So we'll see how that ends up playing out. But that's what I have here. Oh, God. Oh, Oda. Oh, God, Oda. Yes, this is a fun, amazing chapter to read going right into Christmas. And into the new year. God. It's like some parts of this are just going to be so... It's like there's going to be so many episodes at this point in time when we get to this in the anime that we're just going to be like, everybody's just going to be sitting there with like a box of tissues next to them and just going... just like crying the whole time and everything like that. And it's just like, yep, that'll be what happens. And that is perfectly fair. Coming from the person who cries at Disney stuff and Marvel stuff. And occasionally Star Wars stuff, depending on the Star Wars stuff, which, Joy to the Galaxy. So this should be the last video that I record before Christmas, mostly just because I will be very busy the next several days with going to Omaha and doing stuff there, and then I have Christmas Eve and prep for everything here, and I'm baking cookies later today with my nephew and niece, and then and then Monday is Christmas. So I thank everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you have a very merry and happy Christmas and any other holidays that you tend to celebrate. And I will hopefully see you in the new year for chapter reviews and any other stuff that I have for the rest of next week. So I thank you very much, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye!